So who is responsible for the situation in Manipur and what is the process for healing and justice from here on? Joining us is author Madhav. Sir, you have worked at length, not just in Manipur, but also in the entire Northeast. How did things come to such a pass? We were told that with a stable government, there is going to be stability, there is going to be mutual trust between communities. What went wrong?
Padmaja, first of all, whatever came to light is, of course, really very shocking, very heartbreaking. You are right, I worked in that state and I worked in other northeastern states. Contrary to what we see in many other parts of the country, in states like Manipur, women always play a frontline role in public life, in social life. Manipur, Imphaal's biggest market is called women's market. So it gives me much more pain to see these kind of things happening to women there. Earlier, there were issues between some women there and the security forces, but never within the Manipuri society. A society which always held their women in the front lines, they respected them, they gave, that Meira Paibis, we call them, the women leadership in that state. What all happened in such a state today is really shocking. I don't want to get into the politics of why it came out now, why it did not come out now. They are all secondary questions. First and foremost, we have to very seriously think about what all happened to people in that state. Good thing is, at least now there is a strong resolve to punish the people. They have to be punished. And I can also tell you, Padmaja, irrespective of which community the women who are subjected to those atrocities belong to, whichever community, all women in Manipur came out, protested. After this video came out, obviously it was probably an old video, but whenever it happened, it was such a horrifying thing, and women, even Meitei women came out onto the streets and said, this is unacceptable, this is not our way of treating women, which is a good thing to happen. And definitely CM said that capital punishment will be demanded, and that is the kind of harshness that needs to be shown to the culprits. I hope that this whole process will go on and culprits will be punished.
Sir, I have a couple of questions. First, you're talking about the harshness of punishment, but is it coming 77 days too late? How can there be hope for justice when even after the FIR had been filed, no arrests were made until the entire country saw what happened and this video surfaced? Why weren't arrests made for the last 2 months?
Yes, I mean, some of the issues that you raised are genuine questions that will be haunting many people in the country. I do not deny that. All that I can say is the government is now firmly, showing a lot of determination. They have already arrested who is supposed to be the mastermind. He is already arrested, and search teams are looking for the other culprits. Let us first of all see if at least some of them, are, if not all of them, are caught and handed down a very harsh punishment. What is very tragic in all these conflict zones is this situation that women face. I mean, they become victims of this kind of brutal politics of conflict for no reason. I mean, they are not part of the conflict, they have nothing to do, but somehow we become so, as a society, we become so horrible that we target women. That is the really tragic thing, and I'm hopeful that government will arrest the remaining culprits and punish them.
What is the problem right now? Many people are blaming it on the crackdown on opium cultivation. Some people are talking about a China hand. Of course, the High Court ruling on the scheduled tribe status that was being demanded by the Maitis was also seen as a catalyst. But how did things come to such a pass that we are seeing these unprecedented sights of women being assaulted like this? What has created such a deep divide between communities?
Oh, that is the most tragic part of the situation today. Remember, the gulf that has been created in the last 2 months will take many years to bridge. But I must also tell you, through you, the people watching, that Manipur has a long history of great bonhomie among the communities. You know, in the last 6 decades, ever since it became a state in 1970s, or 5 decades, I would say, the state has seen chief ministers coming from Naga community. And there was a chief minister coming from Muslim community. Our Muslims constitute only 8% of the state. And of course, Meitei chief ministers have been there. Out of the dozen chief ministers, at least 3 times there was a Naga chief minister, once or twice a Muslim chief minister. They all lived together, lived happily, amicably as one society, because there is a demographic and geographic reality in that state. Because of that, there is a compulsion also to live together. But there is also inherent conflict because of the demographic diversity there. The responsibility of the leaders of the state, when I say leaders, don't take it as just political leaders, the community leaders, the Meitei leadership, Kuki leadership, the Naga leadership, the leaders of the communities as well as the government and political leadership, is to ensure that this conflict doesn't surface again and again. There will be an element of conflict, but it's not surface. And the extent of conflict that we see today is, I would probably, to the extent that I know about the history of the state, it is unprecedented. There was worse violence in 1990s between, Nagas and Kukis. But this time the violence surpasses that. You asked about the reason. The main reason is something to do with survival, livelihood, but when politics take over, when communal angles come in, things, slip out of your hands, go out of your hands. That's the kind of situation we are facing.
But what about the role of the Chief Minister? Because, sir, when the government was formed by Mr. Biren Singh in Manipur, when he was made the Chief Minister, the mantra was that he will be a unifier, that the sharp divides that exist between communities are going to be bridged. Has he failed in doing that?
Initially, when the government was formed in 2017, I was handling the affairs of that state. So I can tell you with authority that Chief Minister Biren Singh was instrumental in actually addressing a major conflict that was created because of certain decisions of the previous Congress government of Mr. Bobby Singh. There was there was an ongoing standoff between the people of the hills and people of the valley. There was an ongoing blockade of the roads. There were dead bodies which the tribals refused to, bury or complete the last rites. So Biren Singh played a very important role in, convincing the people to lift the blockade and also, conduct the last rites of their deceased people. And then he was hailed by people of the hills and people of the valley as a great unifier. And last 5-6 years, the role that his government obviously has played is an example, is a testimony to the fact that state remained united. But there a situation came 2 months ago where probably, in spite of his efforts, also things could not be controlled, or how it happened. This is something that probably once the things return to normalcy, one has to examine. There is an element of fact that he always worked for the betterment of the entire state. That also has been an experience in the last 5-6 years. And these 2 months of conflict gives us a feeling that more could have been done.
What happens now? What can the state possibly do? There is a trust deficit without a doubt. Such was the trust deficit that you had even members of the peace committee say that we cannot work together. There are people now who are coming out and saying that we want a separate state because it is impossible for communities to exist in the first state. How will this trust gap be bridged?
Yes, that is the important issue to be addressed. But you remember, first of all, incidents like this surfacing every second day, every third day, some violent incident happening every other day. you cannot do anything to restore trust. The first and foremost requirement for Manipur is to bring normalcy. We need a peaceful, normal Manipur. That should be the first priority of the government. And when I say it's not just about the government alone, I mentioned the leaders of the three communities also have to work hard to rein in the elements which indulge in these kind of activities in their respective communities. That is the foremost requirement for Manipur today. We need normal Manipur. Then, of course, a major trust deficit has arisen now. And last week we held consultations with both Maiti leaders and also Kuki leaders separately, of course. And we realized the extent of the deep-rooted alienation, between them, the mistrust between them. Probably takes a lot of effort and time to bridge. But first of all, we need to bring normalcy, Padmaja. That is important. Now, state has to focus on that.
But sir, how can there be normalcy unless there is trust? Because in tribal society especially, and you would know because you worked so extensively with so many of the tribes, the disparate tribes that exist in Manipur, community leaders used to be the final word. If the community leaders are not willing to speak to each other, how will there be trust? And unless there is trust, how will there be normalcy?
Look, normalcy is the responsibility of the government in the first place. You need to use your security establishment, your intelligence machinery, your law enforcement agencies have to be firm in dealing with the miscreants in whichever community they are. So that is primarily the responsibility of the state. In fact, honestly speaking, in the last a week or so, things have been slowly limping back to normalcy in the state. Even this video, you also mentioned it correctly, that it is not something that has happened in the last 1 week or so. It's a little old video. Whenever it happened, I'm not saying that is any justification or anything. But things are improving in the state. This particular video has again caused a huge consternation, no doubt. There will be a lot of anger. Prime Minister himself said he is so angry. So it causes that kind of anger, frustration, kind of consternation in the communities. So it is all the more important that it should not lead to another conflicting type of situation. So normalcy is the first responsibility of the state government, and it has at its disposal 30,000-40,000 of the central forces, which Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah has provided. So using those forces, normalcy has to be first of all maintained in the state. But the larger question involves many other, agencies, Padmaja. Even we, the media, the rest of the country, we all have to now play a role in ensuring that whatever ghav that is created, that wounds that have been created, are slowly but definitely healed.
Well, a healing and reconciliation process definitely has to happen. But before that, there needs to be a sense of justice being done. One arrest out of a mob of what is the FIR mentions as 1,000. All those people need to be behind bars. Mr. Ram Madhav, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. This, in fact, is going to be one of the top stories through the rest of the day as well, right here on Times Now, because our stand is absolutely clear. It's an image that has shaken the very soul of India, and anyone who is in that photo, in that video, belongs to only one place: behind bars.